Have you ever asked the question, is this really it?
Yes, a lot.
Have you ever said there has to be more? For me, it was 2012, December 2012, and my teammate through middle school and high school find out he passed away. And so at that time, I'm living in Richmond, Virginia. We got a 6,000 square foot house, not a car. I was living the life. First kid, second kid was 6 months old. And it looked like I had everything. And I leave for the funeral that day. And I get there 3 hours early. I get there 3 hours early, and I'm sitting in the parking lot in my car. And I asked myself, why am I here? Because I hadn't talked to Hambone since the day we graduated from high school. And I was like, oh, well, there's a level of respect that I have for him. We were in the paper side by side, defensive captains, all this stuff. I knew I was lying to myself. And so I said, well, why am I here? So I pull out the parking lot of the church, because I'm 3 hours early, right? And I go back to the house I grew up in. And I'm sitting there on the street in front of the house that I grew up in a car that cost more than the house. And my grandma wasn't living there at the time. My parents were renting it out because that's what they were going to leave to me. My dad was going to leave to me. I'm like, I thought money was supposed to fix it all. I thought I was supposed to be fulfilled if I had all the things, and it didn't. I didn't really feel like my life mattered. And I was doing something because it paid well, not because it made an impact. Have you ever taken somebody else's situation and made it about yourself?
Yeah.
And so, in hindsight, I realized I was being pretty selfish because somebody that I knew passed away. It was the first person in our class that died. So, for me, this was a pivotal moment because pound for pound, Hambone was one of the best people that I'd ever met on the face of the planet. He grew up in an area that they didn't really have much, but he would give you the shirt off his back. If you couldn't walk, he would give you a piggyback ride. Like, he was the guy who would share whatever he had. And here I was, wasting the life that I had. Like, if anybody should have gone, it probably should have been me, because I didn't feel like I was the greatest person in the world. We get into the service, and I'm standing up because when I finally got back there, the church was packed. In fact, I don't even know that the church was big enough to hold his funeral. So there's people standing along the walls. I see my coach, and they get ready to carry his casket out. And I'm like, who would carry my casket? And I had two people, those two. So I started asking the question again, does my life even matter? Does it matter? If I was gone, would anybody care? And then I got really real with myself and I said, was I really making the most of my second chance at life? Mm. 7 years ago, from 2012, I had just gotten out of a wheelchair. I was in a head-on accident with a dump truck. Broke both my legs, broke my kneecap, broke my ankle. Got medevaced after being trapped in the car for an hour. got into a 14-hour surgery, and another one the next day, ICU, and then eventually I get out, but I'm in a wheelchair. And so I'm rolling myself through the stores, and rolling myself to the mailbox, and people are looking at me like, you're healthy, like, what happened to you? And so we were working out on Thanksgiving Day, and we're walking out, and the lady's video, and she said, what are you thankful for? I said, being able to walk. And so few people actually get it. Like, I walk with a slight limp because I've got rods in my legs, and I've got torn ligaments in the knee, but I don't talk about this stuff. And so when you look at people, know that you have no idea what their story is. Handle them with care and gain understanding, because most people aren't just jerks. Now what I will tell you is there are some that are. And I've met a lot and spent a lot of time with a lot of them. But most people aren't. So if I didn't start the story that way, about all the questions I was asking myself, from the outside in, looking in, life was great. I was doing well at work, flying around the country, flying around the world at that point, doing consulting. I married my college sweetheart, and we had 2 little girls. I had a couple of close friends. My career looked like it was on a rocket ship. I looked healthy until you saw me walk. I clearly had the things, so the prosperity was there. But did my life matter? Was that significant? And I couldn't say that I was. So we came up with this model, like some people think it's just cliche to talk about the red pill, but the red pill is a real thing to me. The red pill works from the inside, we have to take it. And so when I looked at my self-image, I didn't love myself. I had low standards and no self-accountability. And when you don't have accountability for yourself, you can't have accountability for other people. And I was trying to fill the holes in my soul with things. So, give me another watch, give me another car, give me a bigger house, give me. But I had guilt. I wasn't living up to the standards that I should be. And for some reason, it took Hamble on Dying for me to actually do the deep reflection. We talk about the whispers, right? And it's telling you something's wrong, but then you get hit in the face if you don't fix it. And for me, the guy who lined up in front of me every Friday night we were in high school was gone. One of the best people that I ever knew. How could that be true? And so when you got a poor self-image, you keep people at a distance. Because I don't want you close enough to find out that there's something wrong. It ain't what you, it's gotta look good, so we keep you away. So I felt like I had to wear a mask. And so we give out masks so you can put them on the wall. Right? You take your mask off, you put it on the wall. Every time you go to the next level, that mask is off, it's on the wall. So we figured this out in St. Lucia. You can have action. You can either have low or high action. You can either have low or high motivation. In every situation, you're one of these 4 roles. There's another one, but that's what you're pursuing. You're not that until you're actually done with the journey. So you can be the victim, you can be the villain, or you can be the hero. And there's a lot of us who think we are being a hero, or we want somebody else to be our hero, when we're really just being a victim. The thing that I think is extremely important for everybody to walk away from today with is every hero was a victim at one point. Every hero was a victim at one point. They had low motivation and they weren't taking action, and they weren't involved in saving themselves or fixing the situation that they're in the middle of. The moment that you decide that this is what you have to do, you have high motivation, and you're willing to take action, you will get a change. If you don't have both of those things, you either become the villain because you self-destruct, or you stay in that victim role. The guide is there because you can be a guide in other people's lives. You can do self-education to get guidance, but you need that guide there to help you move from the victim to the hero. Make sense? So this is in the back of your program or on the table somewhere. And I want to talk about this, and this is the most important thing. We got a lot of concepts. This one, for me, is the most important thing. We're talking about relationships. And so, there's contribution, and there's capacity. So I want you to think about the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I want you to put them on the paper. I want you to actually write their name in the quadrant that they sit in. Are they high contribution and high capacity? Capacity means they have a lot to give. They can do something. And they're actually involved and engaged. Contribution means they actually do it. Because there's a whole lot of people that sit on the sidelines. They watch you from a distance and they give you alligator arms. Ooh. Show up to the photo shoot late, take a picture or two, you might be able to make the introduction if you get around to it. The 5 people that you spend the most time with, I want you to put them in the quadrant. I want you to write it down on the paper if you indulge me, please. You can tear it up if you don't want them to know what quadrant you put them in. But indulge me. The 5 people you spend the most time with, put them in the quadrant that you think most accurately represents them. And don't look at the words so much. Look at, are they high contribution and high capacity? Are they low capacity and high contribution? How do they fit into the matrix? Look at the actual lines, not so much the words on the label of the box. Go ahead.
Is it their contribution or my contribution?
Their contribution to you. Because what their capacity for you. Because what I find is most Apex performers attract a bunch of people who just want to take from them. And they tell themselves that they don't need anything from anybody else. And they tell, go ahead, Joe.
I think the most depressing thing I realize is I don't hang out with 5 people other than my 3 kids is who I'm with all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely, no, actually, my kids do not drain me, but I see the way other people are around their kids. They definitely drain them. But no, I totally agree. Would you put your kids in this too, or are you putting just...
I would ask that you don't, because it'll take up 3 slots. And so this is the other thing I find that's so common, is that when you're a high performer, you're usually a loner.
Mm-hmm.
You're usually a loner. It's hard for you to come up with 5. So when I ask you to add up the next 5, you're going to be like, Jerome, get out of here, right?
10 people.
You want me to say 10 people that I spend most time with, or are you serious?
That reminds me, my favorite meme is something that was this one about Jesus, where it said, no one talks about Jesus' real miracle of having 12 close friends in his 30s.
And only one wanted to betray him, right? Shekels. All right, everybody done? Not yet? I appreciate you guys indulging me, I really do. Because once you see this on paper, you'll either feel really good, or you're going to start asking questions.
Does this include family members?
If you spend the time with them, because here's the sobering reality about our relationships. And some people just think, oh, it's just a romantic one. The people that you spend the most time with Their expectations is what your life becomes. If you're sitting with high achievers and high performers all the time, that's what you're going to get. If you're sitting with people who are only talking about how bad the world is, that is what you're going to get. You can't out-muscle your environment.
Sorry, can you define capacity and contribution again? Low capacity for you and for...
It's all about them serving you. We're being selfish. We want to see if it's coming to us. I think everybody in this room knows that they give and they give freely. The question is, who in your life is doing the same for you?
I thought it was about production. You gotta change it. I thought it was about business.
Well, that's part of your relationships, but that's not your whole life.
Yeah. I don't have any friends out of the office, if that makes you feel any better. Yeah. You're not my friend. You're in my office. You're in my little screen.
You guys are chattering. Does that mean that you found something out that you didn't know?
Zero friends. Zero friends.
Zero friends?
Yes. Amy, that's it.
You don't have anybody carry your casket either, huh?
Cremation. Right. Just saying. That's the easiest way.
Me too. All right, so is anybody shocked right now?
No.
Nobody shocked? You are? Tell me why.
I mean, I talk to a whole lot of people. I guess I just don't. I guess I'm in their circles more so than I feel like they're in mine.
Wow.
I mean, you give them more than they're giving you.
Anybody else? Anybody willing to be brutally honest?
I'm just glad that you say that successful people are loners, because
Right.
Now you look at it like, oh, okay, I have one or two people here or there, but you're like, everyone's not on the same journey. So that to me is an eye opener, because I'm not the only one.
Go ahead, Tanisha, then John, then Kobe.
I just think if you would have asked me this question a year ago, the answer would have been totally different.
Wow, you've made
But
some
now,
investments.
now the partner looks really good.
Go ahead, John.
I just realized that ever since my divorce, I just pushed everyone away. I just decided I'm better off alone. And it's easy for me because I can create a lot of value for a lot of people, but I don't have to let it in my life.
So you can go serve, get the dopamine hit, and get away. And, yeah, that was me. Go ahead, Kobe.
It's something I think I'm still overcoming, and I've gotten better over it over the last couple months. But yeah, for me, I felt like if I wasn't contributing or adding value, I didn't have value. So whatever I, connect with someone, I'd be like, okay, I can get something for them to want to keep. If I'm not giving, then they probably don't want to be around me. It was very hard to see that people could just let me be who I am.
I remember when you realized that in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
But you have to do some work then, because you have to determine who taught you that you need to be something other than who you are in order to be appreciated at the level that you
It was the relationship with my parents. Since they had mental illnesses, like I was always taking care of them or trying to make them feel better. And like I would only be noticed if I was either doing something very bad or getting very good grades. I couldn't just be. Yeah. So I had to either be very good or be very bad to get noticed.
Most people moderate or manage on the extremes. They only want to know about the extreme cases.
One of the things that helped me actually learn in therapy, particularly for men, our relationships are affinity based. I think I heard somebody say my friends are the guys in my office. If the guys in your office left, would they be your friends? And so I'm saying that just to not let anybody off the hook, but for me, it just gave me some more clarity on the relationships that I had with the men that were in my life. They tend to be affinity based, and if that affinity dissipates, then likely the quote unquote what you thought was a friendship will likely dissipate as well. And because I actually wrote down some people on my list that I don't see very often, but my relationship with them is very, very, very strong, right? And they were typically childhood friends that we remain friends, over the years, and whenever we do talk or see each other, it's like, we had to skip a beat.
But that's not the question. That's not who I asked you to write down, right? I asked you to write down who you spend the most time with. And that is very important because you're building more of what you're allocating your most precious resource to. That every time you spend time with somebody, it's a deposit or it's a withdrawal. And if they don't have capacity, then it's probably a withdrawal.
Well, there's so few people, I had to go to the people I can see that. I had to go to the people that I don't see that often.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just reiterate that when it comes to relationships, it's the quality that's important, not the quantity. But at some point, if you have a lot of quantity and not quality, then you can feel lonely. Your spirit, your soul starts to recognize that you're giving and you're empty. And at some point, that will weigh heavily on you and will adversely affect your health. So it's really great that you're doing this exercise so that we can see it on paper, because a lot of people go years before they know that they've given and they haven't received it.
Yeah. And so I want to ask you to do it here, but at some point, I'd like for you to take your phone out, and I'd like you to look at your text messages, and I'd like you to look at your call log, and I'd like you to figure out if you were honest with yourself when you made this list. Because we don't want anything to be wrong. We don't want everybody to end up here. Because then we would be saying that there's something wrong with our relationships. But I want you to be brutally honest with yourself and look at some data. Your phone's not going to lie. Your email's not going to lie. That's how you communicate with people, or Slack, or however you're engaging and communicating with folks. And just make sure that that's true. And if you got everybody up here, you're good. Keep doing what you're doing. They're inspiring you, they're pouring into you, they can help you solve problems in a phone call. But if you got 4 people over here, you better start having some conversations. And it's not to say you gotta cut them off, but you need to evaluate if they can contribute more. You need to evaluate whether they actually have the capacity. Because some people just can't do it for you. I want to go be a real estate investor, but I'm hanging out with somebody that works at Walmart. I don't know how it's going to work. Especially if they're not doing self-education and some of the other stuff that's necessary to go on that journey. Back to James's point, we're not on the same journey. But there are a lot of people that are on the journey. It's just not proximity-based or affinity-based, or whatever the common interest was that got you to the place. A lot of people made friends based on their kids, right? Because my whole life revolves around my kids. So, oh, well, that's Johnny from the soccer team or basketball team, and their parents, and our kids play together, so now the parents play together. But is that really where you should be investing your time? Take inventory of your relationships. I talked about the word. I'll never forget, it was winter, ice storm, Virginia, one of the worst ones we've seen. And I leave my home, we only had one at that time, to go to work. And we had no power. And I was going to go get other people's power on because that's what the job said I had to do. And so I'm leaving Kata, who isn't 2 yet, her mom, at a cold house, blankets, covers, going off to work. There's something wrong with that. Not a birthday party, it's probably worse than a birthday party. The guys at Northwestern Mutual talk about 3 I's. They talk about income, influence, and impact, I think one's missing, influence. And so for inspired work, I think you need income, impact, influence, and you gotta be interested. I don't think a lot of people are doing work they're interested in. And so if you have income and impact, influence and interest, I think you'll be doing inspired work. And you probably won't want to stop working because you keep getting filled from it. I won't dive into all the other stuff, but we figured out a model for work. Health is level 4 of the red pill, and there's no silver bullet for it, right? But at this point, I think metabolism, nutrition, sleep, spirituality, movement, and hydration are the most important things for our health. I won't spend much time on that. We got a model for health. Prosperity. Time, talent, treasures. Time, talent, treasures. If you have time and talent, but you don't have treasure, you feel underpaid. Anybody ever felt underpaid? You got talent, you got treasure, but you don't have any time. You feel unrested, tired. I'm burnt out, boss. You got time and treasure, but you're not using your talents. I think you feel unfulfilled. And so how can we get all of those so that you truly have prosperity? You are not prosperous if you got a bunch of money and you have no time. You're delusional if you believe that that is true. And so when people get prosperity, when they reach level 5 of the red pill, they tend to have freedom. They can do what they want, when they want, with who they want. And I think so many of us are chasing freedom, and then only to find out when we get there that that's not the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Fulfillment is. And fulfillment in your work is one thing, but fulfillment in life is something else. And I think you only get fulfillment in life when you have significance. Back to this question I was asking myself, does my life matter? And so, a big deal, I'm flying in. I think I was in Utah that week, flying in on a Friday night. The airport in Richmond is right next to a high school. Kid breaks for an 80-yard touchdown. Cheerleaders start doing flips. The band is playing. I can't hear anything, but I spent 7 years coaching and 20 years playing almost. 17 years playing. So I knew what was happening. And all I could do was cry. Because my significance when I was early in my career was going to engineering work, to the high school, and sewing into those athletes. And I gave that up for extra $800 a month because that was what my pay raise was, to go from being home and in a community every night to flying around the world to solve engineering problems. I felt like I sold that opportunity really cheap. And the funny part about that was that happened in like September, October, and then Helmut died in December, and football was a unifying thing for me. And so I didn't listen to the whisper because I cried because I knew something was wrong, and then I get hit in the face. So I think we figured out the model for legacy significance. You need scalable communication, community, there should be community, scalable community, unique talents, a problem to solve, and self-sustaining resources. If you don't have the self-sustaining resources, you're in perpetual fundraising mode. You're trying to figure out how to fuel the thing. If you don't have a problem to solve, you get in this space where it's like, well, what is this for? I got all of these resources, I got the community, but there's nothing wrong here. I can't make an impact. If you don't get to use your talents, you end up in what I think is a mess because you're unfulfilled. We got mine for that. I'll leave that alone. So the truth was there in front of me. I didn't have anybody carry my casket. My life didn't matter. That was fairly clear. And I had a choice on whether or not I was going to do something about it. And so, August 13, 2005, I got a second chance at life. December of 2012, I decided to make my life matter. And I went hard at this stuff. And I think you have the same choice today. I think each and every one of you has the same choice today. Awards are great, hanging out is great, but does your life really matter? Do you know if your life matters? So if you don't know, let's walk down this. Are you madly in love with who you are and what you do? Not maybe, not kinda, yes or no. Are your closest relationships mutually beneficial? If you're questioning that, go back to your chart, answer that. Especially after you verify with some data. Are you passionate about your work and feel like you're solving problems that actually matter? Are you just doing something because it pays well? I know I was. When you think about your health, are you proud of who you are? Is your financial position one of strength? Do you have your time, talents, and treasure? Do you feel like your life has made a true impact when you decide? If you can answer yes to all those questions, congratulations. If not, and you've been brutally honest with yourself, we got work to do. Take the pill. Inside out. Benita said, when you change, things around you change. So inside out thing. I won't ask anybody to raise their hand. I'll just raise mine. I want to change, but it hasn't worked in the past. I want to lose weight. I want to stop eating sugar all the time. Don't give up hope, whatever it is. I think everybody's got that thing that they want to fix. We identified 3 S's that stop change. Strategy. It's incomplete, short-sighted. Stamina. You underestimate the effort that it's going to take. You rely on willpower alone. You rely on only motivation. Not enough support. You try to become a new person in an old environment. A new person in an old environment. No exposure to new ideas. Encouragement to revert to the status quo. This is what we're used to. This is what we do. Don't change. You're different, Billy. Billy, why are you different? You're different. Power. Comprehensive perspective on the strategy. Clarity of purpose, realistic goals. Stamina. Clarity on the level of effort. A lot of people think they'll get there because they don't think it's going to be that hard. We will never lie to you and tell you that it's going to be easy. Use others to harness inspiration. Somebody, you might not be winning right now, but it's close because you know that person over there just won. creates a new environment, new connections and accountability. The other doc, 2 pages, that should have been in the back of your thing, is one. How many people know their net worth right now? How many people know how it compares to last year? Okay. If you don't know your net worth, how do you know if it's improving or not? Life happiness index. How do you feel about life right now in the important areas? Do you document it? Do you have the 5 things that you're looking forward to? You got a bucket list? What are you working on this next on your bucket list? The 6 areas: self-image, relationship, work, health, prosperity, significance. What goals do you have in each of those areas? Do you know? Are you clear? Can you tell whether or not you made progress recently? Measurement creates awareness. That awareness allows you to make modifications. If you aren't tracking what you're doing, how will you know if you're making progress? How will you know? Or it just feels good, so, or you just tell yourself you're making progress so that you don't have to deal with that reality. What do you need help with? And what's the one thing you want the people around you, your 5, to be accountable for? When you think about the 5 people that are on that thing, your 5 friends, what are they holding you accountable for? Do they even know your goals? So if they don't know what you're working towards, then how can they help you? Last international trip was in St. Lucia. Would one person be willing to talk about that for 30 seconds maybe? Was it helpful for you? Was it impactful in any way?
It was extremely impactful, and I feel like that trip was one of the first experiences in my life where I was truly able to take off my mask.
It was fun, man. Catamaran, ATVs, conversations. That's Melbourne, in case y'all wondering who Melbourne is. Dre driving the boat, dinners. Billy, did you let it stall? One time?
Let it stall.
Stick shift, left side.
Let it stall.
Don't let it stall.
I thought you live in Europe.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Volcano bath.
That was cool.
Just us. That was just us on the yacht. We were doing math. Jeremy, we were doing math. I remember that. If you need more accountability, if you need peer mentorship, if you need to know that people have your back,